We should probably talk about like the real stuff here. Although, I mean, honestly, like we're at a gaming convention, so that's half the joy of it is talking about just the fun stuff about games. This is the Life Before Going Indie panel, where we're going to be talking about how indie game producers set themselves up for a career path into indie games, all the stuff that led up to it and made it possible for them. I am your moderator. My name is Adron Buske. I am the host of the Nerd for a Living podcast, which is a show dedicated to people with careers in nerdy and geeky genre entertainment, like comics, gaming, animation, film, TV, art, crafting, publishing, and more. You can find us on iTunes and any of the fun places where you get your podcasts at, or find us at nerdforaliving.com. These are your panelists, and if you like something that they had to say and you'd like to follow them or share what they had to say, get on the tweets if that is your thing, and share stuff from this panel. Otherwise, we will tell you at the end of the panel where you can find them elsewhere on the webs. So what I'm going to do is just start here with Mary and go down the table. I want each of you to introduce yourself and tell us what your affiliation is in the game world.
Hi.
And I don't mean like Team Instinct or something. I mean like for real.
I mean, that is kind of for real. But.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
No, I'm Mary McKenzie. I run Volcano Bean. We're a local 3-person indie game studio located near St. Louis. We have 2 small mobile games called Where's My Goblin and Sleepy Kraken that are out now with free downloads. And we're currently developing a game, Battle Cakes, a snack-sized RPG, which will be our first big kid game. So I'm calling it.
On the PS4?
Not officially, Adron Buske, but it'll be on console. But yeah.
Hi, I'm Samantha Kalman. I am an independent designer programmer of a small LLC that's just me up in Seattle called Timbre Interactive. I made a game called Centris, which is a musical performance puzzle game. That's out on Steam, and I'm working on new prototypes and ports and doing a lot of VR stuff lately.
I'm Jenny Gibbons of Woodsy Studio, and I started Woodsy Studio a little over 3 years ago. We've published 4 games in all, and are working now on a 5th. And I also, because I'm still not able to do indie games completely full-time, I also work at NVIDIA as a game technician.
My name is Ryan Winzen. I own and am lead dev of a small indie studio here in St. Louis called Upheaval Arts, and basically what we do is third-party development for the Blizzard arcade on StarCraft 2. We've been developing a game called StarCraft Universe for about the last 5 years. We just released it. You can go get your hands on it right now on the StarCraft 2 arcade.
And the website for that is super sexy, by the way.
upheavalarts.com.
Yeah, just like for all the StarCraft stuff. Like I was like, mind blown. It's like super awesome. I was like, I don't play StarCraft, but now I want to because this looks really, really cool on here.
Thank you.
Ryan, I will start down with you in the end, and then we'll swing back around. Previous to working in game making, and during, and however the timelines fall, what was your career, or what was your career path, and how did that lead you into making games?
Well, I don't know that any professional career I've ever really had led me into making games. I've been sort of prototyping and playing around with making games since I was a little kid. I started with making paper games in class in the first grade, and I continued to evolve. That paper game, you could be a fireball or a balloon. Those are like the 2 classes you could choose from, just stupid kid stuff. And then that sort of evolved. By 5th grade, the teacher was letting us take lunch outside of the classroom to go play the game in the hallway, and the characters had all their different classes and stuff. And then I moved on from pen and paper development to modding games. I started with modding Warcraft 2, a lot of different Blizzard titles. They always had made things very moddable. You could go into pretty much any of their RTS games and play around with them. So I did that for about a decade. And then I stopped modding altogether, and I had to get serious about my life because I was 18 and didn't go to college. So I joined the Marine Corps, and I did 4 years in a combat MOS. I was an amphibious assault crew chief. And that, in and of itself, there's a lot of leadership building that comes along with being in the military, and that allowed me to kind of learn how to bring people together and build a team to develop what would be eventually become StarCraft Universe, which is basically our third-party fusion of World of Warcraft, StarCraft, and Diablo, all those mechanics, and bring that together into a multiplayer setting over the StarCraft arcade. And a lot of my experience of actually being in the military and being in a combat MOS and learning a lot of things about strategy and those sort of things helped me translate those real world experiences into gaming, because a lot of what we do in gaming is combat or confrontation. And so yeah, it was interesting the way that happened.
Yeah, it seems like gaming is one of those things where there's a huge array of skills that you can learn that are required to make a game, so a lot of different career paths that lead to it. For me, I actually started as a screenwriter, and that's what I went to college for. I worked in Hollywood for a couple years and decided I really didn't like Hollywood. And from there, it was just a lot of exploring for a few years, trying to figure out what career I wanted to focus on. And I had a lot of different interests. I still wanted to write. I was writing novels for a little while. I also loved to compose music. I tried and draw. And so I was slowly developing all of these skills. And one thing led to another. It all just kind of came together. And I started making a visual novel. And once I got into making visual novels, I just loved it. I was like, this is just bringing everything I love together. And that's all I've wanted to do ever since. So.
When I was in middle school, I was making and never finishing games in HyperCard. If anyone knows what HyperCard is. Yeah, one. Like stick figure animation type choose your own adventure stuff. And then in high school, I did a lot of acting and got into filmmaking and directing, like wanted to make like short videos. And then I went to community college and studied filmmaking and editing and music theory. I had a similar sort of experience with like, I don't want to go to Hollywood right after I graduated, and this was like 2 years before YouTube. So if I just stuck with it, I might have like become a YouTube filmmaker. But then I got into software testing, and I was working as a tester of websites and installers and educational software for years. And that led into, while I was working as a tester, I was still thinking about games. And I randomly one day found this little tool for Mac called Unity. And it was like Mac only. And I was like, what is this? And so I was on the forum back in the 1.0 days and basically harassed the developers. There were 3 developers, and they were all on the forum, and I just harassed them until they hired me as QA director. So then I was QA director at Unity for a couple of years, and then I can get into more details later, but I tried to go indie a couple of times and also worked as like a programmer designer at Amazon before Timbre.
Nice. I actually went to school for textiles and photography, and even while I was in the fine arts world, I always realized I really love collaborative projects, and so I kind of fell into costume design for nonprofit theater and dance. And so I was in New York with my husband for 5 years doing that, and I really loved it, but we decided to come back to the Midwest for a variety of reasons. And after a few years, like I kind of really missed that collaborative process of like bringing people together to make a bigger project. And so we have 2 small children who at the time were probably like 4 and 2, and they were watching them play these games and looking at them and being like, like we could probably do something. Like we both have art backgrounds. Our friend Matt also was really into games. We've always played games. And so really it was just let's try, let's see if we like it. So we made our first game and found out we really, really loved it. And it's all the things that I loved about theater and dance and just the collaborative process of a team making a final product. And I also did a lot of retail and product development when I was wibbly wobbly path that you always have to do when you're in the arts. So yeah, that's kind of how I fell into it and realized that kind of used all my skills in one thing.
Well, that actually works really well into the next thing I was going to ask, which is that indie game making is not like a clear career path. You know, I mean, like there's, you know, not that like AAA necessarily is like the most obvious, but you kind of like, oh, go, you know, try to get hired at a job somewhere. But like forging out on your own is always kind of difficult. What made you guys decide that this was something that you wanted to go after in a big way? That like instead of trying to go after an established system, to do it on your own, to find your own way through it. You know, what was attractive about this, you know, this kind of creative pursuit?
I think it's because you, at least for us, like you get to make your own projects and you get to kind of call the shots, and it can be as small or as big as you want it to be, and you're not trying to please funders, depending on your company. If you don't have outside funding, like you're not trying to please funders, like you can really make the stories that you want to make, which is really attractive to me. Yeah.
My story is like a little bit more like stubborn. Like stubbornness has been a big thing. I just had this, I mean, Centris is the game that sort of brought me into being an indie. When I love music games and Res, and I had wanted to make one, sort of thinking about like a compositional music game about 10 years ago, and just always had this idea of a circle. So didn't know what the circle was. But it kept coming back, like as I moved, you know, to work for Unity and then like to Amazon and all around, I just couldn't forget about this circle music game, and it was just sort of like part stubbornness, but part being like unable to stop thinking about it, like stop, like I keep seeing this game when I sleep, like what is this that I just have to do this, because if I don't do it, then it's gonna haunt me. That's a little weirder.
What if it gets done and you just never stop thinking about it? And it just drives you insane until you're like old?
That's true, because even now that I have like Centris out there, it's like, oh, well, what's Centris 2 gonna be? And that's like spinning around in my head now. It's annoying.
Yeah, I mean, definitely creative freedom is such a big reason to pursue indie. As far as really committing to it, I mean, that just requires a lot of passion, kind of obsession, really. If you don't have some of that drive, then it's hard to go through the whole process of making a game from start to finish. So I think the challenge becomes, you know, making sure that flame doesn't go out because of all the challenges that arise. But for me, I have to tell stories. Like, I just don't know how else to live, and it's become my favorite way is to make these interactive stories, visual novels. So it's something I'm just gonna keep doing and keep trying to make, you know, my full career.
For me, I'm the kind of person, I get really bored doing any one thing for a long period of time, and game development and specifically seemed like the type of thing where I could go in and I could get my hands dirty with all sorts of different facets of the arts, you know, whether it be music, design, voiceover, animation, all that stuff go into games. So for me, that it just seemed like the best thing to do, because I could just experiment with all sorts of different things. And then, you know, getting into that, I met so many other people that were talented in specific things, and they liked doing specific things. And so I already had enough experience, I guess, dabbling and everything else. And so I was able to identify who knew what they were doing in those masteries. And I brought a team of people together, and just the stuff that my team was able to come up with and seeing what popped out of their heads was a huge drive for me to continue and say, you know, oh my God, you know, this is so cool. I want to do game development.
Jenny, you hit on you know, the difficulties and challenges and the obstacles that are in your way. Like, what, for all of you guys, you know, what have been some of the big hurdles that you faced in making your games and pursuing this? And I mean, what ones did you expect, and what were the surprises?
Well, I don't think anything comes easy with game development. I don't think that there's, I don't think anything does, but the things that, for me, that were the most challenging were more on the technical side, because I'm more of like the creative, artsy kind of guy, and like performance was a big one for us, because we're developing a 3D game and we're trying to develop a third-person action RPG inside of an RTS engine. First of all, like the engine was a synchronous engine, and most action RPGs are developed in asynchronous engines or a hybrid of the two, and so that was a nightmare in and of itself. And then there was the performance issues. There was no level of detail system in the game, so we had to pretty much build our own. And if your camera was facing in this direction, your FPS drops, and if your camera's facing in that direction, your FPS drops. Or if you get inside of a bunch of particle effects and your lens is too close to that stuff going on, and then your FPS drops. It's like that kind of stuff for me was very challenging to have the patience to go in and address all of those issues. And I think that's one thing that a lot of developers don't, or people just getting into it don't really think about. They just think, oh, we're just gonna, go in and we're gonna make cool stuff, and as long as we program it and the logic's there, everything will be fine, right? No, it's not it at all. It's very challenging, and there's no way that you can predict all of the variables that are gonna head your way. You just have to deal with the punches as they're thrown at you. And I guess the other thing would be personal endurance. The game that I worked on it for 5 years, and for 3 of those years we didn't make any money. So by the time you get to that 4th year, you're just like, oh my God, I need to do something else. Like even if you are doing a lot of different things, like I said, I like to do art, I like to do animation. Even if you are doing all those things, you're still working on that specific project. And opening up that file every day, it gets to you after a while. It's tough.
I'd say the 2 biggest challenges for me have been making money and team form, keeping a team, working with a team consistently. So as far as the making money part, for me, it's just been marketing is so hard. You pour your soul into making a game from start to finish, and you're like, okay, it's done. I need to put it out there. And at least for me, I have no energy left for marketing, just like none. But you have to put your game out there and market it and convince people to buy it. And for me, that is just the hardest part of the whole process. The other hurdle has been just working with the team, particularly when you can't, you're not making enough money to have like a good budget that you can keep people on the payroll. They need to be working with you because they really love it too, and they're invested in the project. And it's just been hard, as I've tried to grow the studio and like bring in other artists or other people to work with, and a lot of it keeps falling through. So that has been a challenge for sure. I've actually ended up working, my biggest partner now is my husband, and we both just love working on the games together, so we have that team solid.
I decided to work on Centris full time because I was legitimately concerned that if I didn't devote myself to it, like 100% of my time, I would die before it would ever get done. And so devoting myself to it with my life meant making a living and like raising money and having to learn how to do all these other things, tangential but tangential to making the game, but required to make the game with that focus. And then I think what Jenny and Ryan has said, like endurance and like your relationship with the work changes and it becomes a chore. What starts out as like joy and fun becomes a chore and work very quickly, like way more quickly than I'd like to admit. And then finishing something. Like it's easy to get started and it's easy to play and find something fun. And then finishing something where you're used to looking at it every day for a couple of years, and then suddenly you're not looking at it every day anymore. It's almost like a parental sort of like, no, it's my child. Like I can't not hang out with my child, but I have to like give it away.
Don't be a helicopter parent.
What's a helicopter parent?
Oh, it's parents that are always like flying.
Oh, hovering.
Hovering.
Okay, yeah. I would rather be a paper airplane parent. Just throw it off a cliff.
It's free range parent. There's lots of terms now. But yeah, I think I would say the same thing. Like as a planner, the unpredictability of the games world. Like when you're developing something, the things that you think are going to take you weeks, you get done in 2 hours, and the things that you think like, oh, I'll just do that tomorrow, literally 4 weeks later, you're still dealing with the same problem, and it's hard on your ego. Like it's hard to the highs are so high, like when someone plays your game at a playtesting and they love it, and it's like, you feel like a wizard and you've done this like amazing thing, and then the lows are so low. Like, you're like, everything I do is awful. And so it's like hard to like ride that line and be somewhere in the middle, and kind of just let it happen. And like endurance, like we've all said, like you have to just keep putting one foot in front of the other and know that eventually you're gonna get through to the other side. Also, keeping your scope in check helps a lot. But yeah.
So flip side of it then, because that was the doom and the gloom. But then what are some of the successes? What are the highlight? What's the highlight reel of this? The stuff that made you go, oh, okay, I feel like I'm on the right path. This feeds into my need to create or whatever. Like what are some of those moments that have really helped out?
We do a lot of public playtesting, and I think it is watching people play your game and like seeing that moment of delight when they get a joke that you made, or like they get the sight gag that you've put into the game, or like you see them respond the way that you respond. We also, everyone in our, like it's me, my husband, and our partner Matt, and we all have small children ranging from 6 months to 7 years. And so they do a lot of playtesting for us, and like, so it's pretty easy to see right away whether something's hitting or not, at least for the style games we make. So it's always just fun to like watch someone react to something that you made. I don't know.
I think I wonder sometimes if I've had an unfair amount of like joyful moments. I mean, I did this Kickstarter, and like people came out of the woodwork for the Kickstarter. Like I did terrible marketing before the Kickstarter and learned how to do marketing during, but like in the first couple of days, like people at Harmonix like backed the game. Alex Rogopoulos, who's like the founder of Harmonix, like creators of Rock Band, he backed the game for a lot of money, which was crazy to me. And I've met a lot of my heroes in the industry. Things like being on the panel, like even here, just being able to chat with all of you is just like these are really joyful moments, and then creatively, like every once in a while, like in between the weeks of hard work, there'll be like one moment where it's like, oh, this feature that I've been working on and racking my brain over and like super self-conscious about, like I see it working and it's gonna be good, and like those moments of like those spikes of joy are real good.
Didn't you have an opportunity to use your game almost like as a DJ tool or something at a
couple of years ago at Indiecade, I played the game on stage as a kind of like video game music performance, which kind of was one of like the big goals that I had. I wanted to make this game that you could do concerts with, and then suddenly I was playing a 40-minute set with my game on stage and got to be a video game rock star for just a little under an hour. Though I did take a shot, and like I took a shot of whiskey backstage before I went out, because I was like, oh, all right, let's do this.
Yeah, definitely. It's all about those little moments where, you know, you've been pouring days, maybe weeks into getting this little scene or something to work, and you feel like it's not going to happen, and then suddenly it does, and it just feels amazing. And then those little moments once your game is out, and you know, I start. A lot of fans are really quiet, and unfortunately, anyone who's angry tends to be vocal. But there are those few fans who will just who just love it, and will say a lot of great things, post a lot of great screenshots. And for me, that just really helps give me the energy I need to say, okay, I will do this again, because that's what I want, is to entertain people. I'll also say for me, the local community here in St. Louis has been huge for helping me stay in the game, basically. Just great people to talk to about struggles you're having, and you know, even therapeutic sometimes, just talking to other game developers about the struggle that is game development. But it's always like a team effort, and it's really great when you see it start to come together. So
I'm a little bit different from these guys up here. I'm not fully independent as far as what I developed. I'm more of a third party, like I said. We used a lot of already created assets in our game, and we had a great starting point, I guess. We already had an IP that was established that millions of people knew about. We had an idea that we knew that a lot of people would like because it's been talked about a lot in the community. So, putting out YouTube videos consistently and that's one thing that I did is I put a lot of YouTube videos together, gameplay videos, and we'd get a lot of hits on those, and people pouring in and saying a lot of positive things about what they saw, like a lot of profanity that I probably can't get away with saying right now. It was overwhelming, and that really helped to drive our team forward. And we like Jenny said, we would get people that were haters and angry vocalists, but you know what? For us, honestly, that drove us to succeed as well. Like the people that tell you that you can't do something or that it's gonna suck, or that drives me just as much as the people who are telling me that they like what I'm doing. And I guess I would say the second thing would be the team that we built. Just being able to work with other like-minded individuals that are talented and motivating each other to get to the finish line, and not wanting to let those people down is one of the biggest things that helps to propel you forward. And then of course there's like the Kickstarters. The people give you their money before you've even developed something or before it's done. You have an obligation to those people to get it done too. So you're sort of locked in for life.
And I still feel indebted to my backers. Like that's a big thing. Like I need to not let you down. Yeah.
Yep. So, crowdfunding, team building, social media, all those things.
Is there like a core lesson that you've learned from your experience in game making? Like something like, it sounds pithy to sum it up into a single sentence of wisdom. But like something that has really resonated that you've thought a lot as you've gone through this that you think people need to know before embarking on this path.
Keep the scope of your game realistic. You're going to set unrealistic goals for yourself. There's going to be a temptation to create a whole universe and all these different mechanics, and because that's what we want to do. We sort of want to play God in our own little world and have a bunch of people go in and enjoy it. But you have to have the discipline to create like a game design document and say, all right, this is what I really want to make. This is my vision, and then have a subset of goals listed in priority of what is going to go into that game, what's going to bring this game together, but then what's going to enhance the experience of this game. And knowing how to prioritize those things is key to actually completing your vision and not putting yourself in debt and not falling into those states of depression that we've hit on a little bit. That's pretty much it.
I think for me, the biggest sort of life lesson has been you can't make games alone. I think for me, that was probably the hardest thing to learn because I'm a very naturally withdrawn, kind of independent person. And there's just so much that goes into making a game. Even though I could do a lot of writing and drawing and music, you still need time to do those things. You still, and you need support. And eventually you do need help, a bigger team to help you do those things. I know for me, as I was getting into game development, my husband was supporting me by being the person who worked. Now we're kind of trading. I'm working while he's starting to learn game development. And, I don't know how we would have done it without each other. Just having someone who's going to help support you, and this whole community is very helpful in general. I think, you don't want to be all alone. You want to accept help where you can.
I have a lot of things I want to say, but I'm going to share most of them tomorrow at the closing keynote. Come to that. But if I had to pick a
Teaser.
one sentence, I know I'm sorry, I'm subordinating, or what's the word? Insubordinate. Insubordinate to your panel, sorry. If I had to say a one-liner for advice, I would say it's a marathon, not a race. And a lot of things that have contributed to me feeling burnt out or demotivated have been trying to rush and my own impatience when like a little bit every day, like working on it every day, not going too far, not like spiraling into the game. Those are good things that are helpful.
Yeah, very similar. Keeping scope in check is super, super important. And not getting, kind of similar to what you said, not getting hyper-focused on polish in the very beginning. So it's really easy once you start the game and you're like, oh, let's make this animation, and like you want to polish it and make it the finished animation right away, and that's not the time for it. Like that comes later. Like get to alpha, get like everything basically where you want it, and then start polishing. Because otherwise, yeah, you'll get so hyper-focused on one thing and you realize 3 months have gone by when you wanted to spend like 3 months making your entire game. But yeah, and everything else. They just
I just want to add, because I hear this at so many, I know we're supposed to pick one thing, but this is the second thing. I just hear this so often as general game making advice, and I feel like it's really true, is don't be afraid to make mistakes. I think that's actually a really important part of making a game is, you know, making those little mistakes quickly, realizing it, fixing it, moving on.
And sometimes mistakes like lead to making the game better, right? Like
happy
something,
little accidents, Bob Ross.
yeah, something surprising happens, and then you like go, hey, this is interesting, and then you can build on that. And I think that sometimes it leads to a better game.
Yeah, there's a great YouTube video, I think extra credit, called Fail Faster is the really great, like just fast iterations, like figure out what you're doing, like do a version of it, see what works, see what doesn't work, make the next version of it, and yeah, don't get stuck on one thing. But yeah, don't be afraid, nothing's gonna work right on the first time. And every once in a while it might, but you'll find something that you wanna adjust.
Were there any companies or individuals that you guys used as a template or example of what you were trying to accomplish? Is there was anybody out there that you look at and go, okay, that's pretty close to what I'd like to be, that, you know, and why? What about them made that?
Yeah, I would say, you know, the parent company for Blizzard, you know, they're amazing at what they do. They've been around a long time. They set a great example for what a game should be, and for me, their core value of gameplay first is something that's always resonated with me, and yeah, I've always looked up to them in everything that they do in regards to game development and all facets.
The local group, Butterscotch Shenanigans, has been a great example for me. They basically literally took the leap of, okay, we're going to quit our day jobs and focus on game making. They gave themselves 6 months, and if they didn't start making money by then, they'd go back to their jobs, and they just barely started making money in time, and kept going from there, and now they're you know, a successful indie company. So they've been really inspiring to me. I'm still creeping up to that, okay, getting fully independent, full-time, but getting there, and it's possible, for sure.
I think I was really inspired by this game called Rez, which is about to be re-released. But I also wanted to make this game because I specifically knew that there was nothing else like it. So there was like no model to follow. And so like talk about making a hard job even harder. But it inspired me, and it captured this sort of emotion or this opportunity, it excited the possibility space in my mind. And I said, I want to like embellish in that possibility space. So I had this weird experience of like, when I would engage community and mentorship and ask for advice, I had to learn that everyone wanted to give good advice, but not everyone was interested in really trying to understand what I was trying to do with the project. So they would oftentimes give me advice to sort of guide the game toward an existing model. And I knew I didn't want to do that, so I would try to say thank you and try to take value from it, but I wasn't always able to. And I think forging a new path is something I would encourage people to do, with the caveat that know that you're doing that and that it's going to be harder than normal.
Yeah, when we started making our first game, it was right toward the end of the Double Fine documentary of their game Broken Age, and so we kind of deep dived and binge watched that entire thing, and I think it's that particular, I think there's 22 episodes, but it's such a great example of the highs and lows, because I think they were the first big company to get Kickstarter backing, like to way more than they expected to get, and then that was our first game, and then after we made our first game, we found the local community, and through the local community, we found like companies like Butterscotch Shenanigans, or like Jenny and John, or Happy Badgers, people who are already doing stuff and already had stuff out there, and so it was really great to see other real people that we could actually talk to who were also doing the stuff that we wanted to do.
Well, awesome. I think we've got a few minutes left, so I want to open it up to Q&A. So if there's burning essential questions on your minds, please raise your hand. And
No lukewarm questions.
Only burning.
No
burning
milk
questions.
Yeah, like this needs to be fire, right?
If there's no questions, we can always do karaoke for the last 10 minutes, right?
That's true.
That's the threat. We will karaoke if you do not ask any questions. Yes, sir.
Indie games, recent indie games that you feel like inspired by, or ones that you're like, oh, I wish I'd come up.
Ooh, Darkest Dungeon. I really like that game. It's fun. It's a Lovecraft, I think is what they call it, where it has
Lovecraftian.
Yeah, it has a turn-based combat element, but then it also has like this psychological aspect to it, where your characters are going crazy as they get deeper into the dungeons, and they develop diseases and phobias and all these sorts of different personality traits, I guess, and it influences the way that they fight and the way that they explore the dungeons. Fun game, love it.
I kind of wish that I'd come up with any game idea that's making money. Like that sounds really good to me right now.
Yeah, I'm just super into Stardew Valley. It's finally on Mac, so I started playing it really because I just wanted Harvest Moon to be made again because I love that game. But yeah, also like Undertale and just kind of like not slower paced games, but like games that are a little, I don't know, just a little more towards cute. I don't know if that's the right word, but.
I actually loved No Man's Sky. I know that everyone's crapping on that game.
No, I really
broadly.
want to play it. Like I think I would love it.
It does this thing where there's this joy of discovery in that game, but it's like a kind of quiet discovery where it's like, I've never seen a tree like this before. Like this is the coolest tree I've ever seen. And like you like examine it and it like has like a Latin name, like what? And like you can like upload it to the space cloud and like and it's this really cool like sense of awe, and like it's interesting as a developer to see how they did it and the creativity there. But like it makes me frustrated at how players are responding about like it's not enough game, or it's too broken, or it's too dumb, or it's like they missold it. It's like sure they did, but what's there is really good. But like people broadly don't value that, and I wish that the playing community did more.
Hyper Light Drifter, even though it's very different than anything I would make, I love the atmosphere and the visuals and the music. Very inspiring game.
I have a horrible addiction to Broforce. I played it first on Congregate as a free like web game when they were like first starting out with just a chunk of it. And it was insanely addictive, and then they put it on PS4 recently. And it seems like I will, if I play a AAA game that I find disappointing, I will just shut the thing off, pull it out, and then just go play more Broforce again. It's like my palate cleanser for stuff.
Having not played Broforce, does it include any bromance?
There is one bromantic section in it. It's a total aside, but it's a tiny little bit in there, but it is
I like
there.
that there's a word bromantic
Yes,
now.
it's very
We need to
romantic.
keep that.
Yes, it's pretty fantastic. It's super fun. More of your questions. I said more. Now.
Can we ask the audience questions if we
Yes,
have time?
absolutely.
So who is currently a game developer? Okay. And who has one game, like killer game idea that they want to make? Okay. And so there are a couple hands that didn't go up. Like, what brings you here?
Who walked in thinking there was free donuts and they were totally surprised?
Who just wanted to sit?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, maybe that's a shitty question. Oh, sorry. Maybe that's a terrible question. So what? Oh, now I'm like getting cold feet asking the audience questions.
Pretend it's like a really like late night classic 80s like talk show.
What? Yeah.
You know, like you're just like,
Hello, listeners. This is my dark feelings this evening.
I'm trying to like put myself back to like the questions that I had, and, like seeing what I can ask or what I can say. Do people like who wants to write code or who writes code? Yeah. Okay. So like, is it writing code that's the thing, or like, is there something about games that are like more interesting than like writing like complex like AI or like something by itself, or like what appeals to the game? What appeals to the programmer in you about games?
For me personally, I wanted to make games and I wanted to design games, but I also needed when I first started to make games like on my own, so I needed to learn the skills. As I joined the team, that was the skill that I was best at and that they needed most. So that's how I sort of found my way.
Cool.
you were needed.
Yes.
They're like, we need you. That's powerful, really. I mean, to be needed and to have like to be the person who comes in at the last minute and gets it done for everybody and be the hero. It's pretty compelling. I'm into that.
I feel like we're on a Netflix show right now.
Let me ask you guys, what indie games are doing it for you? What's some of the stuff that you played recently that you're really into? And we'll tell you if you're right or wrong. Lena, start with you. Indie game.
Yeah.
Wrong. Oh, sorry.
The hype is real.
Yeah, the hype is real.
What is Broforce? Like, that's my question.
Okay, Broforce is it's a sort of 8-bit action game that's got a puzzling kind of component because the entire like levels are destructible, but you play as all of like the classic 80s and 90s action heroes, but they're in a like a parody version of them. So you
So,
play
like Stallone?
It's like Rambro and Bromander instead of Commander, or oh gosh, it's like, I mean, it's all of them.
Isn't the entire A team on there?
No, it's BA Bro
Is
Rockets.
Arnold in there?
And late in the game, you actually like there's several female characters too. So there's the Brode, who's the bride from Kill Bill. There's Ellen Broly, which is Ripley. It's really insane. And every character has different abilities, and you don't pick who you're playing. Like that, you get like as you release them, you get a new character, and you have to like work with what they have going for them. But it's insanely fun. Who else?
Does anyone want to pitch us on a game idea that they were working on or that they want to make?
Are we have to sign an NDA? Because I didn't bring a pen.
I'll sign an NDA.
Yeah.
I just want to hear about people's creative ideas and stuff. I don't know.
These aren't recent games, but I really enjoy FTL and Life is Strange.
Love FTL. You should play my game. We have a huge FTL. I'm serious.
You
We have
like
a huge
that
overlap
game,
of
you'll
FTL
also
fans
like-
with our game. Yeah. I should
No,
play it.
no. Like part of our game, like we developed a spaceship that you have to maintain as you're traveling to different planets, and everything that happens in FTL happens in our game. Like stuff will catch on fire, and you'll have oxygen leaks, and you'll have to adjust the power and all that stuff. But it's all being played in a multiplayer setting. So you're playing with other people in a 3D environment as opposed to like, you know, a top-down 2D pixel game like FTL. But I love FTL. Good man. Thank you. Thank you.
Very cool.
Have any of you guys played Gone Home? That's not. Do you guys know that one? Yeah, it was super fun. It's like if you take Far Cry, remove all of the fighting and killing and being anywhere but one big house, and then just introduce a narrative story that's taking place in an interactive fashion while you explore and learn why none of your family or anybody is there in the home with you.
So it simulates an FPS, except nothing about FPS except the walking.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's,
You pick stuff up
so
sometimes.
what is this, a walking simulator?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it's really, if you've ever gone into somebody's house and you just wanted to root through all their drawers and kind of find what was there because you're just curious. That's what the entire game of Gone Home is, just like ransack the joint and find out everybody's dirty secrets.
Wait, is Saturday Simulator an actual term, or did you just make that up? You should trademark that.
Yes, that's kind of
There you
perfect.
go.
I did
It
like
is.
it. Yeah,
Hurry, get it before Rebecca Black does.
yeah. All right. Well, I think our time is finished up. I'm going to let these guys tell you where to find all their awesome stuff.
You can find me at Mary McKelly on Twitter or at Volcano Bean on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Tumblr.
I am on Twitter at Samantha0, and you can find Centris at centrisgame.com. It's SENTRIS.
My website is woodsy-studio.com, and got several games on Steam. Our latest is Echoes of the Fae, Episode 1, and we'll also be demoing it. We've been demoing it today in the room over there, and also tomorrow.
You can find me at upheavalarts.com or Upheaval Arts on Facebook or StarCraft Universe on Facebook or StarCraft 2 SCU on Twitter, or you can sometimes find me at the Hampton Village Chinooks. I shop there. Other than that, yeah, good luck.
All right, let's give a little love to our panelists here. Thank you guys for being a really fun crowd and having a good time with us today. I hope you enjoyed your first day of PixelPop. Hopefully you are all coming back for more. PixelPop 2, The Reckoning. PixelPop 2.
The bromance.
Ooh, I like it. PixelPop 2, Electric Boogaloo.